Select Committee on California-Mexico Cooperation. Additionally, he serves as member of the Senate Committees on Banking and Financial Institutions, Insurance, Natural Resources, and Water, and Governmental Organization. He is a member of the California Latino Legislative Caucus and served as chair from 2017 to 2018. We also have as a co-guest Jim Bartol, owner of president of Bartol and Associates, an award-winning government and public affairs firm. But even more, Jim is the father of Ryan Bartol, whose very bill 311 that we will discuss today is named after. Senator Hueso and Mr. Bartol, welcome to My Gin, My Story. And with all that you have to share today, it will be a packed 30 minutes. It's a pleasure to meet you both and an honor to have you on this podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much.
My pleasure. So let me begin perhaps with stating that at My Gin, My Story, we have heard incredible survivors' stories and journeys. When I read Ryan's story, it is as inspiring as the others that I have heard. And this new bill of law about to be presented to the Senate is another powerful story to tell. And Jim, give our listeners a little bit of the background of Ryan's tragic story.
Yes, Ryan was 41 and had been healthy his entire life, very athletic, very fit. He was a teacher, worked with special education students, primarily autistic students, and loved his job. He had been on a trip and was returning to home and became very ill, asked his friends to take him to the hospital. This is on March 1st, 2018. And he was diagnosed that night with stage 4 pancreatic cancer and given weeks to live. He ended up living 7 weeks. He died on April 21st, 2018. He was married, had a child who was 9 at the time. And he was originally on morphine to deal with the pain. Pancreatic cancer is the most painful of all the cancers. And that wasn't enough, so they gave him fentanyl. Fentanyl is 100 times more powerful than morphine and did nothing but put him to sleep. During one of his rare waking moments, he asked that I get him off the fentanyl because he didn't want to spend his last few weeks sleeping. So I promised him I would. Worked with the first hospital he was in to take off the fentanyl from his doses and replace it with cannabis medicines. I had contacted a medical cannabis chemist who said that they could create a medicine capable of doing that. And the hospital turned it down. By the time we found another hospital that would allow it, it had been 4.5 weeks on the fentanyl. He had pretty much 4.5 weeks of sleeping. We got him transferred to the new hospital. They said, bring in the medicines, we'll refrigerate them with his name on it, we'll administer the dosage, just show us how to do it. So we had the chemist come in, show them how to administer the dosage. He couldn't swallow anything, even water. So he came up with a spray under the tongue to get it into his system. The first morning he woke up from having his first dosage, he was wide awake, pain-free, and he was like that for 2.5 weeks before he died. He was able to, talk to his friends by phone, text them, have visitors. It was a complete reversal of his quality of life in his remaining 2.5 weeks. Very angry with the first hospital. I felt they had taken away 4.5 weeks of his life. So I did research nationwide, all 50 states, to find out what states were doing to regulate the use of cannabis in hospitals, and there was nothing. So pretty much any hospital in the country it's a hospital policy, whatever they want to do. And
it's unique to each hospital to decide that?
Yes, it's up to hospital policy. There's no regulations in any state affecting their use of it. So I drafted a bill myself, gave it to Ben. He had it reviewed by the legislative analysts, introduced it in February of 2019. It went through the process, the Senate and Assembly Health Committees, the full Senate floors and Assembly floors, ended up being approved by the Assembly 76-0 and the Senate 40-0, unanimous bipartisan support. Went to the governor in October of 2019. He vetoed the bill. He'd been lobbied by the California Hospital Association and the Director of Public Health for the state of California and urged not to sign the bill because they were concerned about losing federal Medicare and Medicaid funding because it's still cannabis is still in the Schedule 1 prohibition.
Right.
So,
First of all, I'm sorry about your son. This is a very sad story to hear. And I understand why it's called the Ryan's Law. But Senator Hueso, you knew each other already? Is that the relation? You were already working together, Jim and Senator Hueso?
Yes, I've known Bartel for over 15 years, and we've always had a great working relationship, and we've been friends. And so many of these laws that I work on here at the state level come from real life experiences in dealing with my constituents and people in our state that have certain experiences. And of course, we push laws that try to help people, try to improve the quality of life of the people of our state. And so I became aware of not only the deaths of the son, but the circumstances surrounding his final days. And I was really outraged. I was very saddened that in the state of California.
Yeah, and that's what compelled you to support that cause.
Yeah, we have laws that date back to 1996 that allow for the medical use of cannabis. And now in California, cannabis is allowed for recreational purposes. We even have laws that allow people to end their own lives if they have terminal diseases.
Terminal disease. So tell us a little bit more. What's in that Senate Bill 311?
So I decided to introduce a very reasonable law, and I just see as something that should already be illegal in California. That this bill, SB 311, is the number of the bill. This bill would require a healthcare facility to permit a terminally ill patient defined as having a prognosis of 1 year or less to live to use medical cannabis within the healthcare facility to treat their pain. And they one of the complaints that people in our state have, and of course Mr. Bartel had the same complaint, that some of the pain-killing drugs that we allow patients to take are not only very harmful, but they completely remove the patient from their proper state of mind. In many cases, they're mostly asleep, and they are really heavily doped, and they don't have an opportunity to end their final days with their family. And
I mean, it's unbelievable.
And they don't allow the patient to even be conscious in the final days of their lives.
Yeah. Whereas the moment that you want to be conscious, to be able, just like Jim mentioned, you want to be able to say goodbye to your family, to your friends, to life in general. You know you're going to die, and you want to be able to have that. But today, I mean, we have like opioid prescriptions to a point where it's an epidemic. We do, as you said, assist terminal patient with morphines and fentanyl. And we have Prop 13, which is the Compassionate Use Act of 1996, which allow patients with valid recommendation that can cultivate, consume, and 64 now makes it recreational. So what's the hang up? Is it, that there was not enough study. It's not done by pharmaceutical company. Where do you see the hang up from the different hospitals?
From my involvement in this process, I mean, the argument has been that the federal government does not allow medical facilities to have substances that are defined as illegal or controlled substances that are illegal. Marijuana is still considered an illegal substance in the United States of America, and I believe that's going to change one day. But in the meantime, federal law does not permit health facilities not only to contain or promote or encourage the use of these controlled substances within their grounds, and that they potentially could lose federal funding. A lot of our health facilities receive federal funding, and so that they would lose that. So,
but opioid, heroin, and fentanyl are all Schedule I drugs too. It's just that they are, done through the pharmaceutical industry.
and look, whether they're defined as legally controlled or illegally controlled, I think that is the catch here in terms of how that is dealt with. But we are arguing that California has been utilizing controlled substances for medical purposes since 1996. There has never been a government action against any facility for having marijuana since 1996, and there is no evidence that they will ever prosecute any health care facility for giving their patients medical marijuana for compassionate use. We believe that the federal government is not only do we believe, but there's enormous evidence to suggest, first of all, that there's no funding to even prosecute facilities for having medical marijuana in their facilities. Number one. Number two, that the federal government is moving in the direction of declassifying marijuana as an illegal substance. And so that in conjunction with recent statements that have been made by the Biden administration give us a lot of hope that this year these policies will be relaxed, and then in California we can offer this as a treatment for patients in the following months. I feel very confident. Mr. Bartel is one of the reasons I not only embarked on this because I was very moved by Mr. Bartel's story, but Mr. Bartel is also a very skilled advocate. And I know that I'm working with somebody that is going to take me down the right path as a policymaker and giving me all the analysis that we need and the right strategy to lead this campaign to a very good conclusion. So he has been an enormous ally in this process. He's been working this very hard from his own, as a volunteer. He has been working exhaustively on this issue, and really he has helped to guide my office into what has been a much better policy. We feel very confident that every day we're making new allies in this process here in Sacramento, and that we feel very confident that this will be our year, and this year that we're gonna pass SB 311, the compassionate access to medical cannabis.
So what does this bill describe exactly on what's going to be voted?
Well, the bill will permit medical facilities to allow patients to to give themselves doses of cannabis, they're not going to smoke it. It'll mostly be something they ingest. So they'll be able to possess the right quantity of the substance to medicate themselves. And of course, most of these patients will have professionally administered recipes of a substance that will allow them to fight the pain that they're suffering. And of course, they will be allowed to be in hospice, receive regular medical care, receive medical attention every single day in hospice, but allow them to possess medical cannabis to treat their pain. This bill will permit that, and it pretty much defines what kind of cannabis can be used. And of course, it can't be a substance. If it's in smokephone, it could affect other people. That's why it does not allow them to smoke this
Right.
substance. So, but look, there are other ways to take medical cannabis in a way that allows them to live a lot more consciously and with less pain. And that's the objective of this bill, to allow these individuals to not live in pain in the final days of their life, and to be able to make decisions,
So,
be in the company of their family and their loved ones.
yes, which is so important, as we mentioned before. So when is the bill going to be presented and voted on?
So the bill is on its way to, correct me if I'm wrong here, we've passed, this bill is gaining bipartisan support, received bipartisan support in Health Committee, and we're waiting to hear this bill on the Senate floor. And it's, if I'm not mistaken, or you can correct me, Jim.
Jump in, Jim,
Yeah,
anytime.
it went to the Senate. Yeah, it went to the Senate Health Committee on March 10th, passed 11-0. And then it went to the Senate floor on March 20th and passed 36-0 on the
Yes,
third reading of the bill. It's now on its way to the Assembly Health Committee next, and then to the Assembly floor, and then there'll be a
sometime in May we'll hear it in
right.
in Assembly Health. And I appreciate you correcting me, because I did miss.
You have a lot of bills on your desk.
So 11, yes, you do cover a lot.
Quite a bureaucracy here.
Yes, I mean, and I just can imagine what it takes in the amount of blueprint and pre organization that you need to do to be able to get this to the Senate. How long have you been working on that, Jim?
Well, our first try was in 2019 when Ben graciously agreed to sponsor the bill, and got bipartisan unanimous support that year. Went to the governor, he vetoed it because of concerns about loss of Medicaid and Medicare funding. And that came from recommendations from the California Hospital Association and the Director of Public Health. We have this year, last year we didn't do anything because of the COVID issues, and the Senate and the Assembly weren't meeting as often. So we didn't do the bill last year, but we reintroduced it this year, and Ben reintroduced it on February 4th of this year. And as we described, it went to the Senate Health and Senate floor, now on its way to the Assembly Health. The issue that the governor vetoed it on was the Medicare Medicaid funding issue. And we contacted CMS about 3 weeks ago to get a clarification on how they would regulate Medicare and Medicaid funding with hospitals if they use cannabis. And I'll read you a quote from their memo, which says, the Medicare or Medicaid regulations do not address the use of medical cannabis or CBD oil.
Does not address it, does that mean that
there are no regulations prohibiting it? It's
prohibiting that? So then it's a non-issue for them, in other words.
Correct. So we have now supplied that CMS memo to the California Hospital Association and to the Director of Public Health and to the governor's staff. And hopefully that will help him clarify his understanding of the bill and the potential risk the hospitals might have, which apparently are non-existent.
Non-existent. Jim, you've been involved with government agencies, crisis management, advocating for other people's cause for 30 years. How different was it this time? It was so personal. It was about, your son. How different was it?
Well, it's very motivating, first of all. And I fortunate, because of my experience in government, to have a friend like Ben who agreed to help me shepherd this through the bureaucracy. He's done a great job. I couldn't have asked for anybody better. It's emotional. because I'm constantly thinking about Ryan, but it's my therapy also. It gets me through. I mean, I know that give some meaning to his death if I can get this bill in all 50 states, have Ryan's Law adopted in all 50 states, and give some meaning to his death. That would be helpful. So it's a mission at this point in my life.
I can imagine.
And I'm really committing to getting this in all 50 states. I want Ryan's Law there to help all the families that were going through the same experience we did.
So does that mean that once it goes through the Senate, it will be in all states, or is it going to be just in California for now?
Yeah, we have to take it all individually to all 50 states.
To all
California
50
would be the first.
So you have years to come in battling this.
It'll move much faster. Once California adopts it,
Yeah.
I've already gotten feedback from legislators in Oregon, Washington, and Colorado who are watching this bill now. And if it's adopted in California, I think they'll pick it up and process it very quickly.
So
It'll gain momentum.
Yeah, Senator Hueso, you're pretty confident that this is going to be a smooth vote. When I look at the other votes that happen at 11-0 and 36-0, do you feel that there's going to be any objection?
Well, we're working to resolve those objections. We're working to communicate with the federal government as well. We're working to remove every obstacle that is preventing us from succeeding. So I feel very confident. We have a great team working with Mr. Bartel that's really made all the difference in the world. He has been working on this extremely hard, and his story is extremely compelling. His story has been moving here. Because of COVID, we've had challenges in having full committees. We're trying to reduce the time it takes to pass bills and to reduce the exposure of not only the public, but of members. And in one case, I remember his testimony was so compelling that they had to cut him off because he kind of went over time in his presentation. I remember most of the committee members protested and said, you have to let him finish his comments because they were just so moving and they were so persuasive. And it's not that that people didn't want him to be persuasive. They just were minding the clock. And it seemed to other people in the public that it was a little insensitive. But that's what Mr. Bartel has brought to this process. He has brought a human element to this.
Yes.
And he has been extremely convincing and compelling, and people want to hear his story.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to make all the difference in the world. These laws are intended to help people, protect people, improve people's quality of lives. That's why this bill has a name. That's why it's called Ryan's Law, because it's based on a real life situation. And because of that, I think that this is going to change not only state law, but national law as well.
Well, thank you for all the work you've done, and thank you for the support you've given that, and certainly an honor to Ryan's life and a meaning, as you said, Jim. It's all the time that we have today, but before we go, we always ask our guests, what is one thing that you will do for your wellness today?
And be thankful for people like you to get the word out.
And you, Senator Hueso, what are you doing for your wellness today?
I'm going to eat healthy.
Oh, that's good. Well, thank you both. It was really informative, interesting, and another extraordinary story. Can our listener help in any way, or is this already a complete cycle that just has to go to vote?
I always tell people if they knew how powerful they were in making a phone call to their legislator or sending an email, if they really knew that it was going to move somebody, they would do it more often, because the public is very important in swaying elected leaders in their local level and their state level. So I really encourage people to weigh in. If they feel strongly about an issue, reach out to your local legislator and please ask them to support SB 311, Ryan's Law.
Great. This is very good advice. We do have a voice and we need to use it more. Thank you, both of you, for coming today and talk about this important topic. And as we close this show, I want to remind everybody that you can join the MyJane community and its movement. As you know, MyJane supports International Sanctuary, in a nonprofit organization that helps survivors of human trafficking after their rescue. We include a piece of jewelry in our boxes and that is handcrafted by a survivor of human trafficking. A reminder that in 2020, the National Human Trafficking Hotline received more calls from California than any other states in the USA. It is the mecca of human trafficking here, unfortunately, even in Orange County. And to have more information, you can visit International Sanctuary, and you can visit myjane.com to have a wealth of information. Thank you all. And you can catch this podcast on Podbean and, of course, on the myjane.com website. Thank you. Follow us on Instagram at myjanesocial. And this is how we do it.
Thanks for tuning in to My Jane, My Story. If you want to learn more, you can join the My Jane community at myjane.com. Get instant access to our Facebook group, Facebook community, educational resources, and updates on My Jane products and special events. And for personal attention right now, you can also pick up the phone and call 833-MyJane2. That's MYJANE2. And speak to your own wellness concierge, because it's time to own your wellness. Be well.
You're tuned to OC Talk Radio. OC Talk Radio.